Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Simon from Scar Illustration and I hope you're keeping well. Today I'm going to talk about how to create a painting study. Let's dive in. I'm currently working on a book cover commission that requires a cave background. As I haven't painted that many caves, I decided to go ahead and create some studies, and this is the first of those. My younger self would never bother doing these. I would always think that it was a waste of time that could be better spent on the final painting. But I've found that not only does this give me more visual vocabulary to work with on the sketches and the final illustration, it also takes away some of the pressure and subconscious stress that builds up when I'm tackling something that I'm not that familiar with in a professional setting. Not only that, but a fair number of the old masters would do these types of studies. And if I can get my paintings to look half as good as their finished works, then I'll make the time to do these studies. The first thing that I do is to find some reference photos of what I'd like to study, which in this case is a cave interior with a shaft of light from above. Photo sites such as Getty Images and Alamy tend to have better examples than, say, just a simple Google search. They also have a better filtering system than Google, which can save time. Once I have several examples of what I'd like to study, I'll then choose one and create a new document that has roughly the same dimensions as the photo. Rather than just rushing headlong into the paints, I like to map things out with a quick pencil sketch first. I realize that it's just a study, but I've found that this method really does save me some time down the road, as there tends to be a lot less repainting involved. It's also a good warm-up for both my eyes and my hand before I start the actual painting. As you can see, I'm measuring elements in relation to other areas so that everything is somewhat correct. For some reason, I've always found it easier to get things correct in traditional media than digital. Thankfully, it's super easy to change things on digital paintings. I don't tend to go into too much detail with the sketch portion of a study, nor do I spend much time close up either. I'm more interested in getting something that looks convincing as a whole as opposed to a photoreal rendering. Once the sketch is complete, I'll start throwing down some paints. I like to use a larger soft brush for this, as I can cover a lot of ground quickly without committing to any particular shapes or patterns. I'm also constantly looking at my photo reference. It's so easy to start spending more time looking at your sketch rather than the reference, but I found it's better to do the exact opposite. As I'm painting rocks predominantly, I've switched over to a chalk brush. The chalk brush will give me more of a dry brush look and feel to the rocks, which is what I'm after, rather than something soft like an airbrush. Even though it's just a study, I still like to incorporate believable textures in my brushwork. I'm also constantly turning on the sketch layer to make sure that I'm in the right place, as well as flipping the painting to ensure that everything looks correct. The figure is pretty much the only part of this painting where I zoomed in. And the only reason I did that was because the figure is quite small and I wanted to get the main shapes correct. Now I'm starting to work on some of the silhouettes and atmospheric lighting. I'm also careful to add these very subtle color shifts to the atmospheric lights, which I've observed on the reference photo. I'm also starting to develop the tonal range of the study by putting in some darker tones with the foreground rocks. as well as adding textural effects to wherever the light falls, whilst keeping in mind this quote: Light is for texture, as shadow is for form. I can't remember exactly which artist said this, but I found it to be very effective, despite its simplicity. When I'm working in the shadow areas, I'm careful to add very subtle tonal shifts to suggest details. Still staying zoomed out for the most part, as I want to keep the momentum going with this study rather than getting bogged down with a ton of details. As I reach the end of this study, I just want to mention something, and that is that a study doesn't need to have the same level of finish that a final painting would have. Many times in the past, I would have spent a long time over my studies as I wanted them to be perfect. I would get bogged down in all the details, put way too much pressure on myself, and this would discourage me from doing them. But now, I treat studies as I would a sketchbook, something I can create relatively quickly in order to get some of the visual vocabulary I need for a particular purpose, and also a trial run before I start in on a final painting. Thus, I find creating studies to be both rewarding and relaxing at the same time. Hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Please consider liking this video and subscribe to my channel. Have a good one, and keep on painting.